Now, if you're a new semi-automatic handgun owner, it makes sense to me for you to have a handle on some of the basic lingo that goes along with a semi-automatic handgun. So today, using the Springfield Hellcat, I want to go over some of the basic terminology that goes along with a semi-automatic handgun. The first thing that I'm going to do when I pick up this handgun is I'm going to verify the condition of the handgun. When I say verify the condition, what I'm really saying is I want to check to see if the gun is loaded or unloaded. I can see that this handgun is unloaded. Now you'll notice that this top part of the gun slid back and forth. I pulled it to the rear and I locked it to the rear. The gun is really divided into two parts. The frame, this is the bottom part of the gun that you hold on to, and the slide. So with the slide, the top of the gun that moves back and forth, and the frame now identified, let's talk about some specific parts of the frame, the bottom of the gun. First of all, you can see right here, we've got the trigger. You can see on this Hellcat that there's a little tab that's here. This little tab serves as a trigger safety. Unless this trigger safety, this tab, is pushed to the rear, this gun cannot fire. It's one of several safeties that's incorporated in the Hellcat. Now, on the frame, surrounding the trigger, is a trigger guard. And this trigger guard has an important purpose. Its job is to make sure that nothing accidentally presses the trigger and fires the gun. Now, the grip of the gun right here has a couple of parts that can be identified. The first is the back strap. This is the back of the handgun. And the second is the front strap. Of course, this is the front of the grip. In the bottom of the grip, you'll see that there's a hole here. This is the magazine well. This is where you will insert a magazine so that you can load the firearm. If I run the slide forward, you can see that in the back of the gun, above the back strap, you'll see we have the beaver tail. This provides excellent purchase for your hand to get up and into the gun as far as possible to help you to manage recoil. Now, on the very front of the frame of the Hellcat, we have a rail, and this rail allows you to attach accessories. You could attach a laser, you could attach a light, or you could attach a neat accessory like the Mantis X10, which allows you to measure the recoil and practice dry fire skills. Now, on the majority of handguns, there are multiple levers on the handguns that do different things. This button here down behind the trigger guard on the grip, that's the magazine release. If a magazine is inserted and this button is pressed, the magazine is released from the gun. Directly up above that, right on the seam between the frame and the slide, is what is called a lot of different names. Might be the slide stop lever, the slide lock lever, the slide release lever. All of those names really mean the same thing. This is the part of the gun that locks the slide to the rear when the gun is empty. So for example, if I have an empty magazine in the gun and the slide goes to the rear, this button gets pushed up and locks the slide to the rear. When I remove the magazine, it stays locked to the rear. Pretty handy. Here is the final lever that's on the Hellcat and on most guns, and this is the takedown lever. This is the lever you would use to unlock the slide and the frame of the gun. And when you're ready to take apart your gun, or what's called field strip it, the best thing to do is refer to your owner's manual for those directions. Now, while we have the slide locked to the rear, let's talk about some of the parts that are involved in the slide or the top end of the handgun. You can see exposed here, this is the barrel. When the slide is locked to the rear, the barrel unlocks and tips up just a little bit, and that helps ammunition to load as the slide cycles. You can see that there's an end of the barrel here that's called the muzzle, and the other end where ammunition goes into the gun, that's called the chamber. Now down below the barrel, you can see that we've got a guide rod. That guide rod has a spring that's captured around it, and that's what gives the pressure for the slide to move forward when it's released. So if I go ahead and pull back on the slide just a little bit, it drops that slide lock lever, and I let go, the slide automatically comes forward under spring tension. That spring is what's captured around the guide rod. It's called the recoil spring. Now, one of the pretty obvious things on the top end of the Hellcat are its sights. The Hellcat has a rear notch that happens to be a U notch. You can see the U shape in this set of sights. And the front sight is a front sight post. You can also see that there are some machining marks both on the front and the rear of the Hellcat slide. Those are called cocking serrations, and they're used to provide the grip that you need to be able to grab onto the gun and operate the slide. An important feature of the Hellcat is right here on the top. This little hole is a loaded chamber indicator. This serves as a way for you to be able to tell if there is a round in the Hellcat. If this gun is fully loaded and you were to peer into that hole, you would be able to see that there is a round in the chamber. You'd see a shiny, different color metal. That's an important idea to be able to help verify the condition of the firearm. This area here on the side of the gun is called the ejection port. When the gun fires and the slide cycles, your spent ammunition casing is going to be ejected out of the ejection port. It'll go scooting over to the side and get out of the way to make room for fresh ammunition to go into the gun. Remember, as a semi-automatic handgun, each time the trigger is pressed, the slide will cycle to the rear, eject the spent round, scoop a fresh round, and load it into the chamber until the magazine is empty. To the rear of the ejection port, you can see there's a little piece of metal here. This is the extractor. It has a little claw on it, and it's what grabs onto the round to pull it out of the chamber after it's been fired as the slide cycles. Now, that covers the major parts that you really need to know about as far as I'm concerned for the Hellcat and most other semi-automatic handguns. I have referred several times to the magazine. Let's talk a little bit about this magazine. Again, my goal isn't to necessarily be some kind of a terminology snob, but I do want you to be able to communicate with other gun owners, gun shops effectively. And one of the things that often happens is new gun owners refer to this as a clip. It's really not a clip, it's a magazine, which is defined as a box that holds ammunition, whereas a clip is just a strip that holds ammunition. A couple of parts to the magazine. This is the base pad down at the bottom. To disassemble this magazine, you would simply press on the button, slide the base pad forward. There's a spring inside, so you've got to make sure that you take care of it. Again, refer to your owner's manual or check out YouTube. You can see that there is a plastic piece here on the top of the magazine. This is the follower. This is what pushes up the ammunition into the gun as the gun cycles. The spring and follower put the ammunition into place so that you're ready to fire the next shot. You can see that on the back of the magazine we have some round count holes. These are going to help you to see exactly how many cartridges are loaded into the magazine. You'll be able to see the cartridge through the hole instead of just black, and that'll tell you the capacity that your magazine is loaded at. So folks, one of the things that I want to remind you of is the purpose of making this video was to serve as a welcome to the firearms owning community. If you're a new gun owner, I want you to be reassured. Gun owners as a whole are an incredibly kind and welcoming group. That means that if you have a question or something that you want to know more about, the only thing you have to do is ask. There will be a whole host of people that are ready to answer your questions and help welcome you into the fold of being a new gun owner. I want to say thank you for taking the time to watch this video today and learn a little bit about the lingo that helps you understand this semi-automatic handgun. That being said, folks, I will see you out at the range.